on to the second part. Brainstorm. What does it mean to brainstorm? So when you brainstorm here, you are trying to plan it. This is a planning phase, isn't it? So you are thinking what goes where and what fits where. So here, I have my ideas. I have my ideas here of how a busy port can look like. So of course you can think about the clouds, the birds, the families, the workers, the splashing, the waves, the boats, the jetty, bot. So this is the first step here. The first step, you can come up with the words that you think can fit up in a busy port or harbor. So these are the words we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just pick up all the words or whatever you can. Just take them up, the words, and do what? And try to think where those words can fit in. So if you think about a school, what can you use? Desks, kids, lunch boxes. You think about pens. Think about blackboards or whiteboards. You think about the bins. Think about uniforms. Think about teachers. Think about aprons. Think about workers. Think about so on. So many things you can think about here. So if you just try to, when you're brainstorming, come up with the words that fit into the particular scenario, okay? And when you do so, after you've done that, not all words can fit your description or your purpose. So you may have to, of course, pick up the words that you, finally you may have to pick up the words that you think you can use, the words you find relevant to your task, you can easily work with, and some words you can ignore, some words you can just sideline there. All right. So this very important. This brainstorming part, you come up with the words that fit up in the description. All right. So moving on, then you can group up the ideas. So this is how I've grouped up the ideas. So as you can see here, I have the sky, the weather, and sky, of course the weather. Well, of course the sky and the weather, they are very important here because they also set up the mood, alright? Very often writers set up mood using what? Using the sky or the weather, okay? So it's very, very important, guys, that you describe the sky or the weather fully. And one of the images that comes to our mind when you think about the port or harbor, of course the sky and the weather, isn't it? Right? So there's a hypothetical fallacy here also. The mood that is conveyed through the sky and the weather. So if you can think about sunny and cloudy, think about those things. What kind of mood do they convey? Dark clouds, yeah. Blue sky. Think about those. So those convey the mood. So I've just added them, and then we have the sun. I've coupled it with a simile. So now I'm setting up. Okay, so what kind of simile will I use to describe the sun? What am I going to compare it with? So we have the clouds and the metaphor, and then we have birds and personification. Yeah. How am I going to personify these birds? So here, as you can see, this is a preliminary state. Okay, and yeah, so I'm just grouping the words together. So here we have people, shouting, families, and oxymoron. You already know what an oxymoron is. You can try to, of course, compare it with another thing that is not similar to it. And then we have food, and then we have workers and juxtaposition. Then we have water, boats, hyperbole, splashing, simile, jetty, metaphor, waves, personification. But of course, this is a preliminary state. You may say, I'm not going to use this one because it is hard for me, or it just doesn't suit into my image of the harbor or port. So it's just up to you. You may choose which ones you like to use. But of course, if you can have many options, it will be easy for you to choose from the haystack, as I call it. And then we have the success criteria. Write for the correct purpose, yeah? So this is a longer success criteria. Write for the correct purpose. Use a range of descriptive techniques. So you have metaphors, the similes, juxtaposition, the senses. You have hyperboles. You have so on and so on. So you've done this before in class. Go back to them. Choose which ones you like to use in your description, and see how it fits your purposes. How do you convey the nuances? See how we can do that. And then you have structure or effect. Okay, I don't know what I was writing here. Okay, anyway, structure or effect. Interesting vocabulary. Use interesting vocabulary, a range of different sentences types. Okay, so you have complex, compound, simple sentences. So if you're using complex sentences, they convey more bigger, longer ideas, isn't it? Or how can I say it? If you're using short sentences, of course, you can use them for effect. For short sentences, they have an effect of something happening all of a sudden, isn't it? Like fast-paced kind of a tone, all right? But if you're using longer sentences, of course, they're breathless. Yeah, they can also be used to describe the unpleasant details, for example. But of course, you need to use all of them, and you have control in your writing. Choose the sentence structures for certain effect. Different ways of beginning sentences, for example, ing. Remember the what you said, the prepositional phrase, the ed verbs. The ed clauses, and so on and so forth. Use punctuation to effectively control ideas. Of course, you can use the dashes. You may use the semicolons. You may use the colons. Okay, you already know what they are, but use them carefully. Spelling, of course, the spellings need to be reasonable, appropriate tense. Yeah. Use paragraphs to control ideas. A range of different paragraph lengths for effect. Okay. So we say use paragraphs to control ideas. So the idea of this paragraph may continue on to the next paragraph, but this time you may have to paint a different picture. All right. Okay. A range of different paragraph lengths for effect. So if you have a short paragraph, are you using a short paragraph? Perhaps maybe to add a certain effect. It depends on you. Link between paragraphs, as I've told you, there has to be a link. There has to be that kind of cohesion. This paragraph, paragraphs in your passage should seem to link to each other. There should be that kind of continuation between the paragraphs. All right. So I'm going to show you a passage that was written. Please just wait. So here you have a passage, okay, that was written. Describe a busy port or harbor, as it says. Sorry, describe a busy port or harbor, as it says here. So here, the sun beams happily in the sky as rays bounce off the glistening waves. So here, happily, as you can see here, is what kind of what? Personification, isn't it? Personification. All right. So here it's kind of sort of personification. So as you can see here, from the get-go, I'm trying to make it interesting by adding personification, right? So glistening here, the choice of verbs should also reflect, like you could have, instead of glistening, you could have say shining. Is that really interesting? No, it's not really interesting. But glistening also adds a little bit of nuance to the waves, isn't it? Yeah, which is more interesting. Shining, glistening. Of course, you need to be thinking of this stuff when you're writing. The golden rays look like arrows being shot from heaven. Okay. Very beautiful description as well. A simile of comparing the rays to what? To idols, of course, you talk about heaven. Again, of course, a very good comparison of the skies. Something beautiful here. The fierce light from the sun baths the throng of visitors in a romantic glow, and happy faces reflect the positive rays back towards the sky. White bubbles hover tentatively in the sky and look as fragile as glass about to break. Again, similarly here. Again, I think about tentatively. Again, a beautiful choice of words, isn't it? Right? So it's not really formed here, fully formed. So the cloud is tentative, is not really fully formed. Hover here has been compared to something like something that flies, but really a very good, of course. The cloud, so as you can see here also what you see, the sentence structure from the get-go, it's only the third sentence, but of course the sentence structure here, they are all different sentence structures. We are trying to alternate here, right? So it's very beautiful there. The clouds slowly climb closer and closer to the dominant sun, personification as you can see here. Dominant sun, threatening to hide its rays and bring cool breezes to those under its temporary protection. This is beautiful here because this is kind of sort of like juxtaposition, yeah? Think about this one, you can think about juxtaposition. So here there's sort of juxtaposition, the dominant sun, and what? And the moving clouds. So there's sort of like a battle going up there, isn't it? Screeches and squawks can be heard all around. But what is this called? This is called what? Alliteration, isn't it? Yeah. So this is trying to emphasize this sound here, screeches and squawks. The creators of this cacophony laughed together as they saw above their heads. So here again, this image is being brought by personification. It's also another personification. Together as they saw above the heads of those down below. The seagulls. Again, this is interesting here because from in this paragraph, from this first sentence, we were not told what was being described. The second sentence, we're not told what is being described as well. But then in the third sentence, this one, we're being told that they are seagulls. Right? So why is this important here? Because sometimes as a writer, you need to do what? You shouldn't have to tell the reader. The reader has to figure out all by themselves what you're trying to describe. Okay, so the description here itself will reveal the picture. You don't have to say it's a seagull that I'm trying to describe. No, yeah. Even if the word seagull here could have been raised out, and the writer could have described on and on without even mentioning the word, the name seagull. Yeah, which could have also been effective. Okay. Aggressively well and deep as they hunt for their next meal. Again, something here is happening. So screeches, squawks, and think about aggressive. This is as if we are migrating from the first paragraph, which was kind of slow and kind of a positive. Now we're being described to a fast-paced description. Yeah, because of the words screeches, squawks, and aggressive. It is trying to bring out this kind of fast-paced description here. Again, this is migrating from the first paragraph, which was slow and quite a positive there. That can be pilfered. A juicy burger next. Let's go. Aggressive will and deep as they hunt for the next meal. Think about will and deep. Those verbs. They're kind of fast-paced, isn't it? Their eyes scavenging, rather actually here, the scene for anything that can be pilfered. A juicy burger held loosely in the hand of a child, dripping ice cream cone about to plummet to the ground. Again, you could have said fall, But plummet is a more effective word, isn't it? It's a more effective word, plummet. All right? Okay. To the ground, or even a packet of crisps that has only just been opened by an excited child. The scavengers of the sky, again, scavengers. Personification, can you say? Yeah? Right? You can say personification, like they're just out there to get something, isn't it? To get, in this case, they're trying to get food from the people down there. The scavengers of the sky don't hear the melody of cries as children mourn their lost treats. Mourn. You said cry, but mourn is even better word to use for this one. It adds a deeper effect of kids crying, so it's more effective word choice. Nor do they care about the angry words screamed to their direction. So here also this last sentence, as you can see, it's sort of like I can say unifying or bringing the people down there and the seagulls up there, bringing them together. So there's this kind of sort of connection. Remember, as I told you, it has to be a connection of your ideas. So the connection between the people and the seagulls is being brought here in the last sentence of the paragraph. The seagulls swoops down from the sky like a comet hurtling towards earth. So here, the sort of like the velocity of the dive of the seagulls is being brought out by the comparison of what? Comparison to the comet. Yeah? So it's as if it's a comet. How you imagine how a comet falls down to earth very aggressively, isn't it? Right? So this mass just falling down to earth. So this comparison here is very effective. A pair of siblings were around their parents trying to poke each other in their ribs. Again, as you can see here, there's a connection between what here? This paragraph and this one. So how can you know the connection, the first sentence of this paragraph and the last sentence of the last paragraph? They're sort of like connecting here, isn't it? Their happy words consume their attention and causes others to stare in mock irritation. The melodious, again, you can swap this word melodious with another word, whichever you find more effective, but I just chose the word melodious. I think is somehow effective. The melodious laughter rings throughout the harbor and bounces off the ships standing nearby. A lone couple stroll by holding hands and pause to look up at the army of birds encircling the area above them. They cover their eyes with their hands, but the sun pierces through the lattice work of their fingers. Okay? Again here, lattice work is more effective here, creating a patchwork of light on their upturned faces. This is a very sustained image of how the light looked like on their faces. Again, this is very, very effective. Just remember the writing criteria. Just remember which words to use. But of course, if you can remember from the beginning here, I did, of course, couple the words together. The sun beams happily in the sky. Of course, I coupled the word with what? With personification. That's what I'm doing here. So go back to the criteria and mark, what have I done here? Have I filled this criteria? Have I done this? Have I done this? And then remember the last 5 minutes, check your sentences, check your grammar, check your words. Are they correct? Have I written them correctly? I hope you had a wonderful day. A wonderful lesson. So next time you write, please remember, write well. Plan, and write. And when you write, the first step, next step, check what you've written. The examiner will be delighted. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Don't forget to do the next task on your own. Remember, exams are fast approaching. Very, very important for you to practice